Today I'm going to talk about secure code, how to write secure code, what are the problems with writing secure code, why do we need to write secure code. Well, think of it as a big picture talk. So you're going to learn about a few techniques to defend against whole classes of vulnerabilities that we are dealing with all the time in source code auditing and also in exploitation. So first of all, why is becoming software security more important recently, and why do we lend more significance to it now? For a long time, security has been all about the network layer and filtering, firewalls, intrusion detection systems, port scanners, operating system fingerprinting, passive fingerprinting. So lots of techniques that are on the network layer. But actually, most of the critical attacks, even on the network layer, are on the application layer, are based on bugs in the implementations and in the source code that defines the functionality. So if you provide or use networked software, you can be darn sure that your net-enabled applications are likely to be vulnerable to various kinds of bugs, and mostly bug classes that are well known, but still happen to find their way into source code all the time. So as applications become more complex and we are moving up in the complexity we are dealing with when we write source code all the time, traditional perimeter defense, so saying this is internal network, this is a demilitarized zone, and this is the internet, it's becoming increasingly meaningless. So what I've been saying in my other talk, all the peer-to-peer protocols are re-implementing TCP, some of them just TCP over UDP, some of them just to bypass network filters, just to bypass firewalls. So it's pretty pointless, because if there is a need, if there is a business need in some sense, to ignore the firewall, that it's there, and just work your way around it, people will do it, and there seems to be something wrong with the concept of how we are dealing with the vulnerabilities. So, and big companies are starting to realize this. So there's this Jericho forum, which some of you might have heard about already. It's just a user group of really big companies, like a few hundred of a few world top players along, and they're saying the security industry right now is not providing us the tools we need to really fix the network problems we have, the application problems we have. And well, it's a bad thing, because we are spending money at this, and more money and more money, and unless they give us good tools, it's just like it's going to be a treatment of the symptoms all the time. So with this reasoning, they're saying if we are piercing through the firewalls all the time, then we need to shrink the perimeter. Maybe we don't need firewalls in the way we use them up to now for most applications, but maybe we need to shrink the firewall down to the individual host first, so host firewalls and host filters and host IDS and just the perimeter in total, and then shrink it even further to the individual applications, make the individual applications secure, and well, when we have the individual application secure, then some people are thinking about how we could we shrink it even further, maybe to data. But for now, what I'm advocating is mostly just making the applications more secure, because then firewall problems, we can still have firewalls and they might have some uses, but their limitations will be less of a problem. So basically, none of these low-level defense techniques that know very little about your applications will protect you against security vulnerabilities, for example, in your own web applications or in vendor-supplied web applications. And stack protection also only works against a very limited set of attacks, makes them harder, some of them so hard that probably they cannot be exploited. But those bug classes, even though they are still fairly prevalent on security conferences, I mean, we have lots of buffer overflow talks here, and lots of memory architecture, malloc talks, and working around various protection features from the hardware side. So it's fairly prevalent on this conference. And well, those classes of bugs are losing their importance already. Maybe because of these protection measures, but also because we have more and more complex software. So we are moving up the language hierarchy. We're using more high-level languages, which makes manual memory management and manual memory management problems like buffer overflows and double freeze and so on less likely to occur. Well, I'd like to clean up with some common secure software fallacies that I hear very often also on conferences like this one. So there are claims, for example, from the Aberdeen group that claims to be, I really don't know them, but in 2002 I read some article about them and then was looking for the paper. They made a comparison study in the security between Windows and Linux. And so they came out with some, in my opinion, unsubstantiated results saying that Windows is more mature because there have been more bugs and there has been more time to fix bugs all over again and again and again. And well, people think this really works. I remember when I got started in security and just Linux admin stuff and so on some years ago, people were telling me that I should use SendMail and shouldn't experiment with those Qmail and postfix stuff. So because, well, it's just snake oil. Those people are just claiming they made it more secure, but just look at SendMail. The bugs have been found. They are gone now. So we can just use SendMail because we found the bugs. Yeah. So they are really. You can look up the paper. If you look for Aberdeen and secure or security, something like that, you will find it. Well, another secure software fallacy is automated tools can solve your problems. Automated tools are really cool because if you think about it, security is a consulting business, but it's also a product business. So if you can make your choice, can you make a decision between making a security product and making a security consulting service, you always will want the product because with this you have linear growth. You can just create the product and then sell it to everyone, and you don't need more people for it. You just need a few people to develop it. So from the perspective of the security industry, automated tools are really cool, but from the perspective of users, it's quite a lot of bullshit because if we could find those bugs automatically, Just think about problems like the halting problem, code analysis. We know we have proofs, we have formal proofs in computer science that we cannot really do formal proofs on any meaningful programs. So it's not going to really work. It can point out problems, but you will still need someone to look if those problems are real and like filter the false alerts from the real problems. Yeah.
Can you please name some of the main players of the Jericho Forum and tell me whether these are perhaps the same companies which in their the security bulletins might announce that,
Just
does it work?
Start over again.
Yeah. Can you please name some of the main players in the Jericho Forum and tell me whether these perhaps are the same companies which request you to use perimeter security in order to protect against some of the flaws in their own software?
I can mention a few of the companies participating in the Jericho Forum from the back of my head, but I don't know if they are main players or just running along.
Well-known companies.
Well, from what I read, but I might have a bad memory, so don't take it for given. But for example, I remember Swiss Charter Bank, Rolls-Royce, GlaxoSmithKline, and along these lines, like big companies that just have security needs. Not related to security, but their business is becoming more and more entangled with security problems.
Okay, thank you.
Well, did that answer your question? Cool. So, and another of the fallacies is good programmers write the same quality of code, no matter what tools they use. This is kind of the main point of my talk, and I'll just stretch it out a little bit and show it using the examples on the next few slides. Well, now to the boring part. To talk about software security, we really should first define what we think is secure or what a secure program is. This is pretty academic. We won't be able to verify it, but it still helps to keep it in the back of the mind. So my opinion is a program is functional. Like taking an incremental approach, a program is functional first if it does what the program developer wants it to do. And it is reliable if it isn't bothered by random events, so it just keeps on doing what it should do, even though random packets arrive and packets get corrupted and so on by chance. So it's quite, even if there are bugs, you won't see problems because the system just keeps running. But it is secure if it is reliable and just keeps on working, but it does exclusively what the programmer wants. So even if some specially crafted packet, which by accident, by random corruption or whatever, would never come to be, it still keeps doing only what it should do and not installs a rootkit or some kind of stuff like that. So I think that's a pretty thorough and wide definition of security. So if we can do that or anything approach that goal, even if we get nearer to that, our software will improve. So in an abstract sense, to write secure software, we need to know what the program should and shouldn't do. So we should define requirements and constraints. So often people forget about the constraints. So they're saying, well, this software, this is a real-world example, by the way. The software should, and it's in the requirements, the software should allow the user to make a transaction from one bank account to another bank account. And, well, what's not in the specifications, but what was kind of obvious to the programmer, is to just make a drop-down field with all the accounts that the user owns that are related to the account. But they didn't explicitly check it. So it wasn't in the requirements. There were no constraints to make a transaction from some other guy's account to some other account. That's really what happens in banking software. So there is no process. There is no formal process. It would have been really cool if a friend of mine, Erwin Erkinger, he was supposed to give a talk on software reliability in the automotive and aerospace industry. You might have seen it in earlier versions of the program. If he had come here, because we wanted to kind of do like two talks behind each other and fill the gaps, because there are processes for secure software development, quite formal and strict ones, but they have good ideas there that really would lend themselves to, some of them, to copying them and creating this kind of process, even for lightweight software development like you need it in other areas. I think this can make quite a lot of sense even for hobby and open source projects to have very little but useful rules for how the software should be written. Well, then to write secure software, we need to write code in a way that avoids breaching those constraints, obviously. So to be able to know that we really are doing this, we need also to verify that the code that they've just achieved this goal. So I think one of the big reasons why it's not common yet that you teach programmers is because companies see it as a waste of time. I mean, if you fix bugs, hunt for bugs, and then fix the bugs, you have some kind of measure that you're making progress. So we as security consultants have the problem, if we want to sell actually useful tools and not just snake oil products, that we need to provide and think of a measure that we can give for how does the quality of well, I'm not talking about individual programmers, but the general output, the quality of the code output of the team needs to be measurable in some kind of way. Okay, now I'm going to make a slight digression. I'm going to use an example that I'm shamelessly stealing from